up here in 2019. We're at Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter, Florida. Complex that's shared by both the Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals. And today, it's the final game between Miami and St. Louis. And let's have a little fun. That's Todd Hollandsworth of Fox Sports Florida, Brad Thompson of Fox Sports Midwest. I'm Dan McLaughlin of Fox Sports Midwest. It's a shared telecast. And, Todd, let's start with you. Is the Miami Marlins, boy, they just keep on winning. This has been a fun camp for Miami.
Well, it really has, and I think it's been important. They're a young group. They're trying to come together. They're trying to play good baseball. They've had the 11-game winning streak. A lot of things have really gone right in this camp. The staff looks good. They're excited. They're trying to carry this over into the season on Thursday.
Brad, how about for St. Louis?
Well, the Cardinals have had a great camp. You got your starters. Everybody's getting their work in. Everybody's rolling. The bullpen looks good. I mean, they've got the complete squad. This team has the chance and the belief that they're going to win a championship this year. It started here, but I'm sure everybody's excited to move north.
All right, we're looking forward to this one. Miami and St. Louis, a shared telecast on both Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Midwest. The Marlins and the Cardinals as we training baseball on Fox Sports is brought to you by Budweiser. Wherever legendary moments happen, Budweiser will be there. By the 2019 Kia Sorento, the perfect getaway vehicle. Visit KiaDealers.com to learn more. And by Steak and Shake. Come into Steak and Shake and get 4 meals with 4 items for $4. 444. Get more for 4 only at Steak and Shake. It's a beautiful day. The Marlins and the Cardinals as we wrap up spring training on Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Midwest. Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter, Florida. Absolutely gorgeous day. And it's the Marlins and the Cardinals. And there's a look at Donnie Baseball. Don Mattingly, the manager of the Miami Marlins. Last year, 63 and 98. And it's been a very good camp, Todd Hollandsworth, for Miami. And there's Mike Schilt, last year interim manager, became the full-time skipper of the Cardinals, guided them to the record of 41 and 28. Brad Thompson, Jack Flaherty on the mound today for St. Louis.
Well, Jack is making his 5th and final start of spring. It's been a great spring for Jack Flaherty. We saw it last year. The kid is tremendously talented. He's ready to make that next jump, that next level. And here it is. He'll be starting the 2nd game of the season. We'll start the home opener. Pretty fun season.
Todd, how many of the regulars will be in this lineup that Jack will face today?
Yeah, it's a pretty good lineup, and you're going to see most of the regulars in there. JT Riddle in that top spot. Probably going to share some time at short with Miguel Rojas getting the starting job today. Take a look at the Marlins lineup. You've got Riddle, Prado, Anderson, Cooper, Alfaro, Brinson, Ramirez, Wallach, and Herrera. Good to see Cooper in there. He's had himself a fantastic spring.
And that pitch popped up and out of play. Very breezy here in the booth, but yet you look at the flags in right, and sometimes they're blowing in, other times they're still, and that's the key down here in Florida, isn't it, guys? Especially Todd Hollandsworth being an outfielder. When you're down here in Florida, you better watch those flags pitch by pitch. You never know.
Well, and the one here at Roger Dean Stadium doesn't lie. It is a very big flag, so you got to read it.
Into shallow right field, and there's Dexter Fowler with the catch, and there's one away. The Cardinal defense, many of the Cardinal regulars are in there. Ozuna, Bader, Fowler. That'll be the opening day outfield for St. Louis. Good to see Matt Carpenter back in there. Then DeYoung and Wong and Goldschmidt, that's the infield, and Molina's behind the plate. So there's your lineup, Brad, for St. Louis.
Yeah, Mike Schilt talked about it. He said that this very well could be a nice representation of what we're going to see on opening day in Milwaukee. And it is great to see everybody healthy, everybody in there. Matt Carpenter could go from this game and get a ton of ABs on the backfields today after this. But it's nice to see the group all together. And one more down here, then off to Memphis.
Here's Martin Prado. 273 the average this spring. I love watching this guy play. This is a pro's pro, isn't it?
He certainly is. He's had some injuries over the last couple of seasons, Prado has, but they're looking for him to be much more productive this year in a different type of role. He's going to fill the utility role this year. Hopefully that allows him to stay healthy, stay on the field, and be more productive.
Out to left, and the former Marlin, Marcell Ozuna, with the catch, and there's 2 away. Take a look at our Toyota keys to the game. We'll start with Miami.
Danny, you talked about it. Keep on keeping on. Really just talking about what the Marlins have done. 11-game winning streak. They've had a very good spring. 15 wins on the spring. The staff has looked so good this spring. Their pitching is certainly a big part of what they're going to do this year. They want to finish on a high note. It's as simple as that. You want to carry some momentum into the season.
And for the Cardinals, keep the focus. Look, it's the last game. You're heading off. Everybody's packed. You look at the clubhouse right now. It's full of suitcases. You see behind the wall there are people loading up trucks. You still got a game to play. Still have some details that can't go. You know, you can't just overlook anything in this game. You got to go out there and do your thing.
Here's Brian Anderson, one of the top rookies a year ago in all of baseball, and a very good camp. 378, couple of home runs, and he's driven in 9. So he can play third base. He can play right. Where does he fit in this year?
He's going to get the opportunity to hit in the middle of the lineup and play third probably all season long. Had some good conversations with him about that. See a good change of pace there from Flaherty. But for Brian Anderson, this has been a great camp. It's next level stuff that you're looking for. He came to camp last year trying to make a team, trying to open up eyes. Now he's the man. In 365 days, he has become the go-to guy in the Marlins lineup, and he has embraced that challenge. I'm real excited for him in this opportunity this season.
Speaking of the man, Jack Flaherty starting to fill that role and that name. He'll be the #2 starter for the Cardinals in their rotation. And that's fouled back, so he gets the Game 2 assignment against Milwaukee, which will be Friday night at Miller Park.
Yeah, back to Todd's point about just opening up eyes. That's exactly what Jack Flaherty did, not necessarily just to the organization. I think that they knew exactly what they had, but all around baseball, you see Jack Flaherty's name out there and expectations out there for him. And he's one of those guys that he puts in the work. He does everything that you could ask of him. He's going to continue to get better and better.
Catch made in right field by Dexter Fowler. Good to see him back. Matt Carpenter. And he'll lead it off when we come back. No score. Marlins and Cardinals. Well, Cardinal fans know a little bit about this right-hander, and certainly Miami fans finding out more. Zach Gallen.
Yeah, Zach Gallen came over in the trade for Marcell Ozuna. Had a real solid season last year in the minor leagues. 3.65 ERA. You see the 133 in the third inning. 6'2". He's command and control guy. Fastball in that low 90s range. Changeup and a curveball. He's got good stuff. Command very, very important to him. He's had a good spring, and the reason I mentioned that last year, a little different spring. It was rough. ERA up there, but he's really opened up some eyes and certainly earning himself some opportunity here in 2019.
Here's a lineup for St. Louis. Carpenter, Goldschmidt, DeYoung, Ozuna, Molina, then Fowler, Wong, Bader, Flaherty. And this will probably be, Brad, the lineup and the order that the Cardinals will go in. And so Dexter Fowler going down to the 6th spot, and Mike Schilt talked a lot about that today.
Yeah, he did. He talked about the fact that he likes his skill set there. He's got the versatility where, you know, he's got the wheels. He can put the ball in play, do a lot of good things for you, and he likes Goldschmidt batting second. Now, who knows? Those things could bounce around a little bit. You have a lot of good pieces here, but when you look at Carpenter, Goldschmidt, DeYoung, Ozuna, man, that is a very talented four, and as an opposing pitcher, I don't think I'd love to see that every single day.
I was in Mike's office. He had 2 different lineups this morning, one with Carpenter, one without. And Matt walks right in and said, Skip, here's your lineup.
Use that one.
He had the lineup card. It included his name. And Mike took the other lineup, threw it in the trash, and said, okay, there you go. That's my lineup, Dan. So you could tell the guys in the truck, build their graphics. It includes Matt in the lineup. He just made the lineup.
You know they're not going to, you're not going to risk anything. He's been dealing with the back, and he's certainly not going to play in this game if you don't know for sure that he's going to be ready for opening day for game 1. He'll get some ABs here. Mike Schilt did allude to the fact that he might take some ABs on the backfields afterwards just to get some reps that he's missed. He'll stay back here behind when the club leaves to Memphis and get those ABs again. But nice to see him back out there.
And before the little nagging back injury, Matt Carpenter was locked in. So that kind of came at an inopportune time. But spring training, Carpenter's had that issue. You don't test it. You just, hey, shut it down, get right. He can take some at-bats here today. He's going to stay back, as Brad mentioned, and then get ready to go for Milwaukee on Thursday. Here's Paul Goldschmidt. And that pitch taken inside, and that's a couple of pitches very close to being strikes that have gone the Cardinals' way. Nice round of applause for Goldschmidt. First home game, if you will, since the extension. And the fans are going to love seeing that. Home run, Goldschmidt. First time he's been in front of the home fans since the extension. Takes one deep. And he is locked in this final week. Paul Goldschmidt, the home run in his third of the spring. They are going to love him.
The ovation for Paul Goldschmidt on opening day, fellas. It is going to be something. It is going to be something. You see this here fastball just coming in on him, gets the hands in, gets the barrel to it. We saw him hit a home run the other day in St. Lucie, out to right field, driving it that way. Todd, you've seen Goldschmidt over the years. This guy's the complete package.
Yeah, he really is, and I know he works tirelessly to be just that. Cardinals fans are going to be thrilled with Paul Goldschmidt over the next few seasons, and he's a big part. I think he's going to help him defensively, obviously, in the middle of that lineup. And, you know, I was just sitting here thinking about, you know, Carpenter at the top and Goldschmidt. You know, Carpenter, I was sitting here thinking, you know, hitters don't need a month of at-bats in spring training. If Cardinal fans are worried about Matt Carpenter being ready for the start of the season, about 3 good at-bats and 3 good fastballs in play will put him right where he needs to be. And obviously, I was thinking of Goldschmidt, who, by the way, gets his first fastball today and hits it over the wall and left. Kind of shows you what hitters are trying to accomplish down here. I always remind fans, this is for the pitchers. It's not for the hitters. It only takes about 5 to 7 days for most guys to get themselves ready.
And DeYoung out in front a bit and pops it up on the infield. Catch made by Martin Prado. There's 2 away.
Now let's take a look at the Marlins defensively for this afternoon's ball game. You've got Ramirez in left, Brinson in center, Cooper over in right. He's probably going to be there opening day. Anderson, Riddle, Herrera, Prado, Wallach behind the plate, down on the mound for the Marlins.
Marcell Ozuna, you have great insight into Marcell Ozuna. And last year he dealt essentially dealing, swinging, and he admitted to this recently, with one arm. And he's not throwing the ball that well from left field. It's good enough, not great. He has won a Gold Glove, and you've seen him play well in left field defensively. When he is right, how good of a hitter is Marcell Ozuna? Our fans have just not seen it. He was okay, but we haven't seen the best of him.
Yeah, and I feel like I made a promise to you last year in spring training when you asked me about what's Ozuna going to be like, and I'd seen him for my first year in 16, or I'm sorry, 17. He was a top 5 MVP candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who hit 34 home runs, half of them at Marlins Park, was as dominant as any offensive person in the game other than his teammate, Giancarlo Stanton, at the time. Marcell Ozuna, you know, here's the thing. You know, you watch his stance and the way that he approaches the ball. He uses his shoulders very much in his swing. He doesn't have high hands. It's not a high point of entry into the hitting zone. He is very rotational. And when you talk about extension, as you see right there, that top end almost always comes off the bat where he wants to get that extension because he has shorter arms. If he's dealing with anything in his body, and there's a pretty good look at it right there, that extension that he's looking on, you can see the left shoulder, how it torques around. If he's dealing with any kind of nagging injury, it's going to play on his power potential. And there's no doubt, I think, with the inconsistency that Cardinals fans saw last year, for me that was it, because when he got locked in 17, I mean, it was like there was no coming back. He was one of the biggest forces in the game. I thought this was a very fair trade for the Cardinals.
And that's tap foul. Now on the other side, I think Cardinal fans, Marlin fans, curious about Sandy Alcantara. What kind of camp has he had? What kind of year did he have last year?
He's had a good camp, but he's definitely opened up some eyes. I mean, we're very, very impressed with his poise, his character. I mean, his stuff that he brings to the table is electric. But I mean, that moving forward, you know, there's still a little bit of inconsistency, I'd say.
A couple of strikeouts, Zach Gallen, but Paul Goldschmidt, fresh off the extension, 5 years, add that on to the year already that he had coming into this season. 6. Cardinals with a lead of 1-0, top of the second. Paul Goldschmidt with a home run and his third of the spring. Here's Garrett Cooper, and a slider misses inside for ball 1. It'll be Cooper Alfaro picked up from the Phillies, and Lewis Brinson, who was part of the Christian Yelich deal. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, Cooper's had an outstanding spring, .425 average. Still looking for his first home run. Does have 6 RBIs. If you do the math, it certainly looks like he is going to be making his way south to Miami. We're the only team in baseball that get to say that, by the way. Everybody else goes north. You know,
yes.
We're the only team that goes south. South down to Miami, and he's probably going to get that, hopefully, that opening day nod. He's had a very, very impressive spring training. But I guess the way that I weave the story together between Cooper and O'Brien, and I think so many Marlins fans were curious to see how this was ultimately going to play itself out. It comes down to what Don Mattingly has been preaching since the start of spring training. We have to have more contact. We cannot be striking out as much. We don't possess nearly as much power maybe as some other teams in the league, but we are going to be active on the base paths, and we need to put the ball in play. In just over 40 at-bats, 6 strikeouts for Cooper, and I think for O'Brien right around 19. So it kind of tells you the story, and not only has he backed it up clearly with his own performance, but at the same time the message that was kind of being handed out has been received by one more than the other.
Kind of goes back to your point earlier too, is the ballpark there in Miami is not as conducive. All right, so if you're going to be hitting a lot of fly balls, if you're going to end up getting that thing in the air, look, you'll take the home runs. You see the nice fastball down in the way by Jack Flaherty after showing off a couple of sliders. But the risk versus reward, you put the ball in play, good things might end up happening. Right. And I know that baseball, we've trended in a direction where everybody's kind of okay with all the strikeouts. But putting the ball in play, man, it's a lost art, right? You just never know.
Jorge Alfaro, .429 the average here in spring, and it was a game against the Cardinals in which there was a pop-up right by Don Mattingly, and he ran into the dugout and the fence there, if you will, and the railing, and kind of a nasty collision with that, but this guy has got an upside, and I mean a cannon for an arm that we've seen.
Well, the Marlins are very excited to have him back, and everything looks really, really good moving towards opening day this week. He's kind of just gotten himself back on the field, but he's been working behind the scenes, and that's what I want Marlins fans to understand. I know that, you know, if you're looking through the box scores, you're saying, okay, well, he hasn't been playing that much. How is our opening day catcher, our starting catcher, who's going to catch 5 or 6 times a week, is he going to be ready for the start of the season? You have the ability to work behind the scenes. You were talking about Carpenter going back maybe even at the end of the day today to go get some more at-bats behind Roger Dean Stadium, which you can do here in spring training. Alfaro has been doing exactly the same thing behind the scenes.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Put in play, hit to short, gloved by Paul DeYoung. Out number 2. It's been some big moves made by the Marlins. Of course, you see it day after day, but Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton, and JT Realmuto this past offseason. Right. So they've had the pieces, but probably not the pitching, but you get some pretty good pieces back.
Well, and that's the unfortunate part in mentioning those players, and obviously Christian Yelich went on and won the National League MVP. Stanton did his thing in New York, and obviously Ozuna with the Cardinals, and JT had a fantastic season. But what ends up happening is there's an overview of the organization, and there were holes like Swiss cheese all over the place. And the only way that you were going to be able to rebuild, re-identify with your community was to take, a step back, assess, and rebuild. And doing that, what do? You take the assets that you have and you make the most of them. And that's exactly what's been going on over the last couple of years.
Lewis Brinson hits it down the right field line and near the Cardinal bullpen. This is one of those pieces, and Brinson played in just over 100 games last year. Couldn't put it together. What kind of camp has he had?
Yeah, he's had a good camp. Again, a little streaky, I think. Really, really hot at first. He's cooled off here just a little bit, but I think young players at times go through that. I think that, you kind of find your stroke sometimes in spring training, and you take a deep breath and you say to yourself, well, it does reset on Thursday for whether you're hitting 429 or 250 or 300. And having been there, I know the feeling. I think he'll be ready when opening day rolls around here in a couple of days. I think that's the most important thing, as any hitter will tell you. Sometimes you come out roaring and you're hot at that first week of spring training. And you're like, well, where do I go from here? Really, this is just preparation for the season, and we still have ourselves 25 spring training games left.
Brinson had a very long leash last year. They're trying to see exactly what they could get out of him. Do you expect that kind of be the same thing this year?
I do not.
Look, you're going to get the reps? No?
It's a great question. I do not expect him to have that same leash, if that's where you were going with that. The organizational depth has improved significantly to the point where there's internal competition, and I think he's going to not nearly get as much time. I guess the point is, I kind of had mentioned it to you before the broadcast, he struggled for a good 2 months and was still being afforded starts and opportunity. I don't think that the leash will be that long. I think there's enough answers in the system.
And that's Robinson who makes that play at third. So Carpenter gets the one at bat, and I'm sure he's on the backfields taking some hacks. Lewis Brent. For every fan who can't get enough of your St. Louis Cardinals, there is Cardinals Magazine, your all-access pass to the players and the preeminent moments that define Cardinals baseball from yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The number to call, 345-9000, cardinals.com/publications. You get a couple of tickets. You get the updates on all the players. Cardinals Magazine, it's all here for you. Cardinals with the lead of 1-0. We're in the bottom of the second. Todd Hollandsworth, the analyst of Marlins baseball. We're on Fox Sports Florida. Brad Thompson will be with me on opening day on Fox Sports Midwest. I'm Dan McLaughlin. And here's Yadier Molina, ground ball. That's a veteran right there on a getaway day in spring training. That's not a veteran move. That's a drop at first base. Throw to second, and he's in there safely. And Molina winds up at second base.
Swing the bat, good things might happen, right? Put the ball in play. You just never know.
How about the veteran move, though, guys? I mean, it's, final day here at spring. Hack away.
Well, that's it.
Come on, Todd.
Always seems to be the theme of that last spring training day. Early contact, throw strikes and swing early. Well, that ball rolls up Brian Anderson's arm just a bit. Certainly looks like a good throw across the diamond. Just a miss at first base. That's all I've come up with. I'm not sure why or how.
Late life.
Yeah,
late life.
Well, you certainly know about some sink, right? Was there a little too much sink on that one?
That could have been. That was really good action. If it doesn't work out over there at third base, which I got a feeling it's going to for Brian Anderson, pitching is always an option.
Here's Dexter Fowler with Wong and Bader to follow. Mike Schill was talking to us before the game. He said it's interesting. Look at the bottom of the Cardinal lineup. So Fowler's sixth, likes his skill set here. And then Wong and Bader with some speed at the bottom of the Cardinal lineup. So he talked about chaos potentially at the bottom of the lineup. He liked that word. And that's a liner into center, caught. And Molina scampers back to the bag and safely at second. But it is interesting. You talk about speed at the top of lineups historically, but, for the Cardinals, Wong, Bader, Fowler's been a leadoff man primarily in his career, was terrific in Chicago, Colorado, a little bit in Houston, but you could get that with this Cardinal lineup.
Couldn't. It seems like Mike Schilt is not going to be afraid to use it, and he showed it last year. There was an attention to detail defensively. I think that was something that you saw change a little bit, but he utilized his speed. He utilized the aggressiveness, and he talked about with having those guys there, how important it can be, having the pitcher up. They can move the guys around, hit and run a little bit, drop some bunts down. I mean, there's a lot of small ball that can be played at the back end of this lineup.
Well, or you could just be like Miles Michaelis and hit bombs.
Nice and easy.
Strasburg.
Nice and easy over the fence.
And we hope to visit with the Jupiter native coming up in the third inning. Miles Michaelis with a home run yesterday. One out and a runner at second base. And here's Colton Wong.
Well,
and it's no balls and two strikes.
And I think it's an interesting dynamic. It's one I always liked when you have some speed at the bottom of the lineup. But when you look at who these players represent and what they've gone through in the last year or so, you're taking some pressure off them, too. You're letting their speed
young
play.
Player,
Young players. I think in Colton Wong's case, still kind of trying to get that bat moving in the right direction. You clearly could say the same thing about Fowler. When you hit down in the lineup, that pressure comes off. It does. Goldie's going to he is going to shoulder a bunch of that this year. But the point is that you've got some speed. That's a dynamic, and then you've got some guys who can watch five hitters. What's the guy got today? Pay attention for the first 45 minutes of this ballgame before you get up there. You'll see.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know. I brought it up with Jimmy and other guys, and Brad, you being a pitcher, it's a little different perspective. But the 8 spot in a lineup in the National League.
Tough spot.
Because you don't know if you're getting pitched to or not.
Right.
You agree with that?
Absolutely. It is a very, very tough. I mean, it takes a special person to be able to do it, but it's one where I think speed and contact helps. Pitchers a lot of times attack the 8 spot with the idea that I'm going to nibble this corner to death, and it's going to be nibble away. It's not going to be nibble in. It's going to be nibble will you chase, and it's only going to get tougher on you. Well, okay, well, then we'll pitch around him because we got the pitcher behind him. See what I mean? So, you know, they're just kind of messing with your head all the time in that 8 spot. It's tough to do.
Well, for a guy like Harrison Bader, we know the weaknesses that he has. It's that breaking ball, that down and away, the one, Todd, that you're talking about. That hey, if you'll swing at this one on the outer third, will you do the one a ball off? What about 2 balls off? So for him, he's going to have to get to that point where he recognizes stuff, is able to foul some stuff off, give himself an opportunity, and just realize exactly how he's being attacked and the situation of the game. Not an easy thing for a young hitter to do.
It was interesting. I didn't really pay too much attention to it until a couple of seasons ago. Miguel Rojas had a really, really good year hitting out of the 8 spot all season long. And the reason I mention it is because he was so good out of the 8 spot that it caught my attention. He was hitting .290 out of the spot with a .350 on base percentage. And I'm like, I don't think people realize. I used to say it on Marlins Hair all the time, how hard this is.
That's right.
So to the point, I even brought it up, and I decided that in one of the telecasts I was going to bring it up and tell everybody the top 10 hitters out of the 8 spot in the lineup. You know what 8 of them were? American League guys.
Right.
So, I mean, that tells you how hard it is to hit in the 8 spot.
1-2 the count now on Bader with a runner at second base. Jack Flaherty on deck. 1-0 St. Louis. And there's a breaking ball in the dirt.
Is that the breaking ball you're talking about right there that he's been working on in spring training, trying to lay off of?
Being able to lay off it, recognizing, once again, the situation. You see, this is a good take from Harrison Bader right here. Still balanced, not way out in front. That's how he's going to get attacked until you prove that you're able to lay off of it or until you prove that you're able to drive the ball. That's how you're going to go. But Bader's got some big-time pop. Once you get him out there, then you try to bust him in, he can turn on the ball.
And the 2-2 pitch outside. Well, right here, though, 3-2, pitcher on deck. You know, first base is open. I mean, you got to figure what?
Break a ball away. I mean, that's what you're thinking. A little bit different potentially in spring training. I know these games aren't always the blueprint
but
of
regular
how things
season.
are going. Yeah, for sure. This is going to be a slider away.
And there it was. So the strikeout of Harrison Bader as he flips the bat. We hope to visit with Miles Michaelis coming up in our 3rd inning. Reminder for Cardinal fans, Game of Thrones night returns to Busch Stadium Tuesday, April 9th. Purchase of a special theme ticket. Fans will take home a Game of Thrones inspired Cardinals t-shirt. Plus an official Iron Throne will be on hand for those who dare to take a seat. Get your Game of Thrones tickets at cardinals.com/theme. Top of the 3rd, we're wrapping up spring training. A split telecast, Fox Sports Florida, Fox Sports Midwest. And what a pleasure to get the chance to visit with Miles Michaelis. He'll have the opening day assignment for the St. Louis Cardinals. And Miles, before we get into pitching, I've got to ask you, yesterday the home run. I mean, that was impressive. But even better, the strut. The strut was sweet. Now, we're showing the home run. You can't see it.
Okay.
That's Steven Strasburg. Not a bad guy. Now, there's the strut. Tell me about the strut. Let's get into that.
The one coming into the dugout?
You
That's
bet.
the one.
Yep, that one.
You know, I guess the other day Dexter hit a few home runs, and this was the new dance that they were doing coming into the dugout, and I guess it was my turn, so hopefully it's something I get to work on as the season goes on as well.
Had you practiced that at all?
No, I had not. That was right off the cuff.
Uh-huh.
I feel like those are the
Not
best
bad.
ones. Is the ones that are just organic. They're real, as we're showing it again. Look, you're getting used to the home run. We've seen a couple of these from you. Has that always been something that's been in the tool chest for you?
You know, always been a bit of a 5 o'clock hitter, so it's nice to run into one when the lights are on every once in a while.
Absolutely. The stash, is that going to stay for Thursday in the opener?
Yeah, that was the plan. I had to kind of get the beard going first, and then I like to, you know, whittle everything down into a mustache, kind of see what I got. I feel like it's in a good place right now. It'll get stronger as the season goes on, and hopefully it sticks around for a good portion of the season.
Did you study mustaches to make sure that you knew what you wanted to go in with this year?
Yeah.
Of course you did.
Yeah, when I trimmed this one, I kind of wanted to go straight across, a little bit of a push broom. As it grows out, it kind of curves and comes down. I like Kevin Costner's mustache in Dances with Wolves.
Okay.
That's a good one. And Tom Selleck in Mr. Baseball is another one to kind of shoot for.
Yeah, he's outstanding. Have you ever thought about going handlebar?
It takes a long time to grow that out, and mine wants to kind of go down naturally, so it's really trying to fight it, trying to twist it up. So that's a tough get for me.
Okay. This is really a great interview. By the way, let's talk about the opening day assignment. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. You know, kind of where I've come in my baseball journey. It's you know, it'll go down as one of my crowning achievements, and hopefully you know, one of many to come.
When I saw you at the MAC Awards in St. Louis, I don't know, I just had a feeling you were going to sign long-term with the Cardinals. It just seemed like it made sense. You're a Jupiter native. Cardinals obviously train here. Did it seem like much of a surprise for you that this all transpired here in spring training as we see a ground ball hit left side, and this will be out number 2?
You know, just a move that makes sense. You know, coming back from Japan, we kind of did our due diligence, so we knew what teams were a good fit, and you know, just absolutely love St. Louis. My wife and I love it. Kids love it. You know, and love being at home. It makes it almost an even split being here and then being in St. Louis. So it's one less place. We got to kind of pack up the tribe and get the kids moving. So it's a big you know, big plus for us being here during spring, and you know, being able to throw, you know, a couple more games in front of my friends and family, make it easy for me to get to, is always a nice little treat as well.
And Miles, it's one less thing you have to worry about in the foreseeable future. You mentioned the journey that you've been on. It's taken you to a lot of places, and you've had a lot of successes, but it is nice, man, the next couple of years, you know where you are. You know what it's going to be.
Yeah, you know, again, one of those, just, it's been you know, I've taken one of the more roundabout ways. I took that fork in the road one too many times, and it'll be nice to just kind of stay on one road, and you know, I think it's going to take me in a really, really good place.
When you're signing the deal, did you, or at least, you know, thinking about it the night before and realizing it had been negotiated, and there's a base hit slapped the other way by Rosell Herrera off the sidewall, and that'll be a double, and you had time to reflect. Did you ever think, like, holy smokes, here I was overseas, and now I'm on the cusp of signing this deal for an incredible amount of money, and wow, it's happened. I'm back in the big leagues. I had this incredible year last year, and now I've got financial security for years and years to come, and I'm playing for this great organization, and I've made it. I did it. I transformed myself, and it worked.
I mean, it's crazy, because there was a time in Japan when I had, you know, you tell yourself, hey, you know, if I end up in Japan, there were some guys that I played with over there that had been in Japan for 7, 8, 9 years and had fantastic careers, and you know, you can make great money over there. And there was a time when I kind of said, you know, if I want to be a Japanese baseball player for the rest of my career, I was okay with that, because of baseball over there. You know, I love playing baseball, and B, the fans make it really fun, and you know, you can carve out a great living over there. And then to have that mindset, and then to have this happen, it's just almost like a complete 180. But I think it just kind of speaks to just kind of living in the moment. You know, hey, I'm going to be the best Japanese baseball player, you know, pitcher that I can be. I'm going to be the best Tokyo Giant. And then coming back, I said, hey, I'm going to be the best, you know, the best Cardinal pitcher I can be, and just kind of keeping with that theme.
You have family in St. Louis, do you not?
Yeah. Couple aunts, uncles, couple cousins, a lot of families, so it's a lot of fun. They get to come out to the games every once in a while as well.
When you decided to, you know, make this transformation, when did you know it kind of clicked? Did you have a moment where you thought, this is working and this is the right move, when you were over in Japan?
I think that my last season there, I was able to put everything together. I'd had pretty good success my first season, and then in my second season, I was, kind of decided to work on stuff and to get out of my comfort zone. And I think my third season there, everything really came together from a mechanic standpoint, and how I want to learn to use my pitches and kind of always making sure that I stick to what I do best and not trying to get outside my box and outside my comfort zone too much. I think that's when everything kind of really started to click.
Are you the kind of guy that sets personal goals, and you don't have to say them on the air? I'm just curious if you do.
No. I try to stay away from solid set goals. My goal, and I told the rubber out there every time I get out there, my goal is to win that game. Do whatever I can to help my team win that game, and go from there. And then as soon as that game's over, and I'm ready. 5 days later, I'm focusing on the next win.
It's been a pleasure watching you do this, and many more years to come.
Thank you so much.
A lot of fun, Miles. Thanks.
Thank you.
Miles Michaelis strutting along into 2019, and fun to be around. 1-0, Cardinals on top. Budweiser, what's on tap? Miles Michaelis will go Thursday, Miller Park against Jolice Chassin. And for Miami, Colorado will visit. We're assuming Cal Freeland will go for the Rockies. He did pitch yesterday, and Jose Urena will throw for Miami. And boy, what a finish to his season a year ago.
I'll tell you, we kind of I don't know why we do this, but we kind of take it back to the Acuna incident with the Atlanta Braves, which for whatever reason it seems to mark itself. But the dominance that he has displayed since that point in time, I mean, almost like dare I say a new man, but I mean, he had been good before that, but it was other level type of stuff. 5-0 with a 1-2 in September against teams that were trying to get some things done. I mean, it wasn't like the Marlins were just necessarily playing teams that were like, the September doesn't mean anything to us. There were some teams that were, going for the playoffs, and he just absolutely mowed them down. He's had a great spring, 2.63 ERA, lots of good work, and I think Marlins fans are expecting a big year from him.
Here is Jack Flaherty, and rotation, is it finally set now for the Marlins?
It's getting there. There's 7 guys for 5 spots.
Hit to short. So do you have a basic idea, you think?
Well, I do. Nothing's been announced, and I don't think anything's meant to be announced until, well, give it about 4 days. So I'll say that. One thing that we know, Wei-Yin Chen's going to be in the bullpen. So of the 7 guys, 1 guy's going to be in the bullpen. So now you're talking 6 for 5. But this is going to be a fluid conversation probably all season long. When we see you guys in a couple months, see the Cardinals, the situation may be the same names that we're talking about, just shuffled around and used differently. You may see, Dan Straley here. You may not see Dan Straley there. I mean, it might be one of those situations. We've got young arms that are pitching very well, and it speaks to the depth that they've got. Guys like Pablo Lopez have really stepped up this spring. We saw him the other day just dominant against the Cardinals. And in fact, he's had a great spring training. Caleb's back. Caleb Smith's back. He's throwing the ball really, really well. So that's the one thing that the Marlins know they have is some answers in that rotation.
Here is Drew Robinson. So at third base starting today for the Cardinals was Matt Carpenter. Took one at bat and then went on the backfields. Robinson then took over at third base, and they want to try to get as many at bats for Carpenter. He's going to stay back here and face some pitching and then join the team in Milwaukee. And I talked to Drew in the clubhouse today and said his favorite player growing up, Brad, one Jim Edmonds, and Edmonds worked a lot with the outfielders, and he said that one of the neatest aspects in this camp for Drew was, number one, having a chance to make the club, clearly, as Goldschmidt digs in. But he said you had all these Hall of Famers walking around. He said these guys are shagging flies. They're actually picking up the baseball and not telling them, the players, the current players, about themselves or how great they were. They're actually here to help them.
Yeah, it's special. It is special. And when you get an opportunity like that to see a player that you grew up just admiring and loving their game from afar, and then to be able to shag fly balls with him and talk about the game and talk about an approach, it's a special something. And we mentioned Jimmy on the broadcast yesterday. That was it's a lot of information, a lot of great information. Willie McGee has great information, a great guy to be around. By the way, once again, the biggest ovation out of everybody that walked down from the wagon gate in right field today. People went crazy for Willie McGee, man. They love him some Willie. And the players love him. He helps out so much.
He said Willie's been incredible for him. Jim Edmonds, those kind of guys walking around in this camp. And it's no disrespect to the Marlins, because the Marlins just don't have 100 years of history.
Right.
And that's just the difference in the organizations. Just the fact that you have the rich history of the Cardinals.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, to the Marlins, I mean, Juan Pierre is now on staff as well. He's doing his part too, and it's funny because I think of all three of them, and I've kind of been connected to all three of them in some weird ways.
Goldschmidt again out to deep left, not quite deep enough, and the catch made by Ramirez. So Ball is 1 for 2 with a home run. Make sure you join us on April 7th, Cardinal fans. 30,000 fans 16 and older will take home a Cardinals hooded windbreaker. That's courtesy of Old Dominion Freight Line. And also, kids 15 and younger receive a free ticket voucher. And that's valid for Cardinal home games. Select Cardinal home games. All you have to do is visit cardinals.com/promotions. Each team with a base hit in this ball game. We're in the top of the 4th. Todd Hollandsworth of Fox Sports Florida, Brad Thompson of Fox Sports Midwest. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and it's a 1-0 St. Louis lead. Here's Martin Prado against Jack Flaherty, and a strike at the knees. Prado, Anderson, and Cooper here at the top of the 4th. Brad, what have you thought of Jack Flaherty thus far?
I thought he's looked really good. He's spotting up his fastball, especially to the glove side of the plate. You see another one right there. He's mixed in a good breaking ball, and it's all about getting the work in. He went 5 innings last time out, and I think that's going to be the next step for Jack Flaherty. You look at the body type, and you look at what he's been able to do, and it's around 180, over 180 innings last year combined between AAA and the big leagues, is getting deeper and deeper into games and pounding that strike zone and allowing yourself to be out there in the 6th and in the 7th. And we saw him get deep into some of the games last year. But I think that's where you learn a little bit about yourself, is those later innings. And obviously Mike Maddox is going to be helping him through that learning process. But I just love the way that Flaherty goes about things. I love the fact that after a game he's breaking down video. I love the fact that he works as hard as he does, and he's already got it figured out for a kid that just has barely a year of big league service under his belt.
Pretty nasty stuff.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you look at his mix. We saw him last year, 94-95 on the fastball. Obviously, the sinker, changeup, slider. I mean, the curve, that slider is vicious. And when you think of the Cardinal rotation in the National League Central, a division that is going to, at least seems to me, matter from game 1 through game 162. You cannot bend, you cannot break. 1-6 in the first week is going to put any team back, and they're going to probably think that way, and their fan base will probably react.
Gap right center, but there is Bader shading that way and makes the catch.
Is there a better rotation? I know you guys obviously have your allegiances and your loyalties.
Certainly.
But I mean just being fair and real, I mean, I look at Flaherty, Michaelis, who we just spoke to. I mean, I'm not sure there's a better 1-2 punch in the Central.
I think that you look at the Cubs rotation, you see a lot of names that you really like. And we know this. If they all play up to the seasons that they've had in the past, well, they're going to be great. Yu Darvish is going to be a key cog in that if they get things going the right way. But I don't believe that anybody has the depth in their rotation that the Cardinals have. And that's not even to mention a couple of guys that had big league appearances last year. Austin Gomber was a guy for them. Daniel Ponce de Leon, who are both going to be in the rotation in Memphis. They could be called upon at any time. I do have my allegiances, but I believe that these guys are going to be there. Adam Wainwright in that rotation. You see him there. Adam always dropping knowledge, and you never see Adam Wainwright hanging by himself, do you? He's always got people around him, and one of the best teammates ever. He'll start the 5th game of the season. It's going to be Michaelis, Flaherty, Dakota Hudson in game 3, Michael Wacha in game 4, and Adam Wainwright in game 5. And you got to like your chances with those 5 rolling out there.
Here's a grounder left side, gloved by Drew Robinson. And so 1-2-3. Prado, Anderson, Cooper retired. It'll be D coming up. 1-0 as we move to the bottom of the fourth. Todd Hollandsworth of Fox Sports Florida, Brad Thompson, Dan McLaughlin of Fox Sports Midwest. Cardinals shortstop Paul DeYoung looks at a breaking ball for a strike. Zach Gallen, starter today for the Marlins.
Gentlemen, I have a question for you. We've just been ranting and raving about the St. Louis Cardinals rotation and certainly maybe their place in the National League Central. If there's one person that you're keeping your eye on for the offense this season that you would say, okay, this offense does its thing, who is that person that steps into their role and has the type of production or maybe more than a typical Cardinal fan would expect?
Yeah, for me, it's too easy to say Goldschmidt, right? That everything's going to end up running through him. And honestly, last year I thought that this name that I'm going to throw out, it was going to be too obvious also. But it is Marcell Ozuna, to me, that we spent a lot of time talking about before because as you see him step up to the plate right now, Marcell Ozuna has got big-time power. He can drive in a ton of runs. Todd, you know it better than us even, seeing him at his absolute best. But this lineup is different. When he is that guy in the 4-hole, I think it changes everything. We saw him hit for average last year, and we saw a little bit of a glimpse of it late in the season after he got an injection in the shoulder, and he looked like he was free and easy. But, man, if he's that guy from a couple of years ago, I think that changes everything.
So you guys are looking at a new number 3 and 4 hitter this year. Is that what we're looking for Cardinal fans?
Could
a new
be
Marcell Ozuna and a new Paul Goldschmidt. Well, he's new, right?
That'd be perfect. That'd be perfect. Yeah, it doesn't matter how it shakes up in that order. Man, that's the beauty of it. And I know that we see the order right now. You got Goldschmidt second, DeYoung third. But Mike Schilt has got a lot of different pieces that he can move around. And a lot of players that are willing to do so. Todd, I'm sure you've played with a lot of guys in the past where it's like, well, no. This is what I am. I'm a 2-hole hitter. Or I'm a 3-hole hitter. Or I'm a cleanup hitter. Look, they've got a lot of hitters that they can just move around.
A lot of good athletes. We were talking about the bottom of this Cardinal lineup. It's certainly, listen, you want to be able to create runs in different ways. I know, speaking to the nature of the game here lately, we like to talk long ball. It's what we do talk about, where we kind of look past the strikeouts and say, okay, well, the team that hits the most homers, they're going to the playoffs. I feel like the change is coming this year. I really do. I think that we're going to see a little bit more contact. I think we're going to see some creative offense from a few teams.
Grounded to short, and Ozuna retired for out number 2. I'd throw out Dexter Fowler. I mean, if you can get Dexter Fowler at 260 to 275 and get him back to where he was in year 1 with the Cardinals, that makes this a completely different team.
Makes it all move.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no doubt. And once again, on paper, and everything's different on paper, it's got to play out in reality. You got to love where this lineup is. When you're 6, 7, 8, potentially, Fowler, Colton Wong, and we saw him 2 years ago offensively, probably his most complete season. But I believe that's in there for Colton Wong, and I think this is going to be a big year for him. And then you have Harrison Bader. I mean, that is a really nice back end of a lineup.
Here's Yadier Molina. We hardly have talked at all about this guy. We just kind of take it for granted, right? We just take for granted he's going to be behind the plate doing his thing. And we see him every day, Todd. And for my money, surefire Hall of Famer.
Sure.
I mean, this guy is some kind of player and still going strong. The 2-1 pitch, and Molina hits it down into the left field corner. Reached on an error his first time up, and trotting into second base with a 2-out double. The game has changed dramatically since he broke into the league, which was all the way back in 2004. 2004 was when Yadier Molina began playing Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he's one of the few people that I can say I played against that guy still that's left in the game. I mean, there's only a couple of years there. You see that great swing from Molina as he stays on his backside so well, always does. Now, the one thing that I'll add, and you and I, we touched on this, Danny, during our telecast, the joint one earlier this week with the Marlins and the Cardinals, what we can't measure in this sport. And I think he, to me, is like, well, when we say to ourselves what we can't measure in the sport, and who we talk about is a Yadi Molina. Because if you just look at the numbers, it may tell you a story, and certainly one that you'd say, okay, well, that should probably get him into the Hall of Fame conversation. But if you talk to anybody around the game of baseball that's either watched him, or been in St. Louis, or just a fan of the sport in general, you know the impact that that man has had on this organization for well over a decade.
One of the big things that the Cardinals have done over the years, they've been so great at drafting and developing young pitching. And it seems like that young pitching always gets to St. Louis and just seems to have success. Well, that man right there, Yadier Molina, has a ton to do with that. He puts in all the work. He knows his pitchers. He knows what makes them tick. It's not just about knowing their repertoire, what they throw out there. It's how do I motivate him? How do I get this guy back to where he needs to be? And he takes the thought process oftentimes just off of you as a pitcher. He puts down a finger. You're saying, okay, great. There's reason behind that.
What's there to argue?
Yeah, and certainly as you get a little bit older in your career, it is nice to understand why he's doing certain things in certain counts. Two different guys. But, man, what a comfort blanket that is to know that he's already put in all that work. He's going to make you better and better. You don't have to worry as much about runners. He'll take care of that, and his reputation takes care of a lot of that as well. He's just an incredible teammate, and he helps everybody grow.
1-2 the count with 2 outs. Dexter Fowler at the plate. Jairo Munoz came in to pinch run for Yadier Molina. So Carpenter out of the game. He's on the backfields, and we were told that no issues whatsoever with Carpenter. So taking some extra at bats, and now Molina out of the game, and the 1-2.
Well, I know it wasn't long having the entire group together, but it was nice to see that band together for a minute. We'll see it again on Thursday. Kind of fun for everybody here. We got a packed house at Roger Dean. Everybody excited about their baseball this season.
No activity in the Marlins bullpen, and the Cardinals do have a right-hander throwing. And we should mention for Cardinal fans that John Brebbia did make the team. So that announcement was made by Mike Schilt this morning. So the Cardinals will go into that series against Milwaukee with one lefty in their bullpen. Interesting, with Moustakas and Yelich. That's right down the middle, and Fowler looks at it, but a left-handed heavy lineup, one lefty to start the season coming out of their bullpen. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Spring training baseball on Fox Sports Midwest and Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Hyundai. The Hyundai SUV lineup has always been better. Now it's bigger. Visit your local Hyundai dealer or buy Hyundai.com today. Buy Shelter Insurance for your auto, home, and life. We're your shield. We're your shelter. And by the Missouri Lottery. Every ticket played gives back to Missouri schools, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery. Jorge Alfaro is the new batter, and this is a new pitcher in for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Cody Whitley, the pitchers, pitched in 41 games for the Peoria Chiefs last year. And we all know that these games for the big league regulars, they're ready to go. They're ready to get the season started. Big day for a guy like Cody Whitley. Gets the opportunity here to pitch in big league camp and be a part of it. And I know he spent the year in A-ball last year, but this is a great chance to pitch in front of the major league staff.
I like to use the phrase, you know, at the beginning of spring training, we use words like first impressions. At the end of spring training, we use phrases like lasting impressions. And you want to leave that on your manager. You want to be an answer, because what do we know? There's going to be injuries. Guys are going to go down. Oh, yeah. We saw him last week of spring training. Dominant stuff. Great arm. Came out here and showed us what he had. And you can put yourself in a position of being an answer for a manager, you know, a month or two sometimes into the season.
Yeah, it is a good point, too, because just the eyeballs. Sometimes a manager will go to a guy. It's like, all right, these few guys have good numbers. You know what? I've seen so-and-so. I don't know this guy. Maybe all it takes is that one game.
Right.
Lewis Brenton grounded out to third his first time up.
Todd, you were asking us earlier, you know, different keys for the Cardinals and what makes them tick and what not. When you're looking at the Marlins this year, and this division, by the way, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting. Both the Central, you know, and the East. Is this one of those guys, though, potentially that could break things open for the Marlins if, in fact, he hit his stride?
And I think I'll be careful in how I say this because you have all the respect for Lewis Brinson and everything that he's accomplishing and working towards accomplishing. You look at him and you say, if he ends up at the All-Star game this year, I wouldn't be surprised, not for a second, when you look at his skill set. And at the same time you say that, you look back to last year and you say, well, there was a lot of inconsistency. So, it's a broad spectrum, in the way you talk about him, because it could be one extreme or it could be the other, or maybe it's somewhere in between, so you really don't know. He goes through these periods. In fact, he went through them last year. Multiple homer game in Milwaukee, like out of nowhere, like he's struggling, nothing seems right, and all of a sudden he just busts out, goes on this incredible tear before missing some time, on the disabled list, injured list. Sorry, I'm still getting used to that.
It's going to take a while.
Right. And, you realize how talented this young man is, what a great fit he is for Marlins Park. His frame, his makeup, his defensive ability in center field fits the ballpark so well. But he's got to be consistent on offense. In fact, he's probably got to be consistent on defense. They're going to give him that opportunity. He's earned it here in spring training. And you hope it turns out well.
3-2 spoiled.
I mean, you watch him, he can get an infield hit just like anybody. He can hit the ball about as far as anybody. He can go get the ball in center field. And if it all comes together at the same time, you're like, wow, we're talking about a guy that can go to the All-Star game a few times.
Can run.
Yeah.
He's got power.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, what can't he do on the field?
3-2 pitch again, and struck him out. It's Andrew Kisner now behind the plate. Lewis Brinson didn't like it. Words with the home plate umpire Shane Livensparger. And there's 2 away.
Cody Whitley just goes with the fastball down and away. I kind of see why Lewis Brinson didn't love that one.
Yeah, I kind of caught it across the strike zone. If you saw that just a little bit, you feel that as a hitter. When you watch the catcher and the pitcher doesn't hit his spot, but yet the ball somehow ends up in the strike zone, the umpire sees that, but nobody else feels it that way. The catcher's glove moved a good 6 to 8 inches there.
Whoa.
And that's what Brinson certainly was feeling.
Harold Ramirez at the plate. Cardinals with a left-hander throwing in the pen. No activity for the Marlins. That's pop foul out of play down the right side.
You guys remember when a few years back, when a pitcher was throwing 96 miles an hour, we would actually mention it?
Oh, well, I mean, it was right. It was in some places national news.
Yes. Cody Whitley coming out. That last one that was fouled off, 96. That one, 96 as well. And it's like, ho hum. Everybody's trotting them out nowadays.
It's Webb, the lefty, throwing in the pen, and there was some school of thought that the Cardinals would carry Webb north and he would be on the opening day roster. That's not the case. Again, the Cardinals making the announcement this morning that John Brebbia did make the club. So you've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but Hicks, Miller, Leone, Brebbia, Myers, Reyes, Gant. And there is a base hit into left center. Harold Ramirez on his way to second base. Will he try for 3? He will. Relay by Munoz, not in time, and a triple. Ramirez at third with 2 outs here in the top half of the 5th.
Well, Ramirez continues to impress, given many opportunities here in this spring. He's come through. Great swing. Got a little Adrian Beltre in him. Remember that approach, that closed off stance right there? Stays through the ball and lines it right back up the chute. That thing rolled all the way to the wall. Have themselves a runner in scoring position.
And a chance to tie this ball game up. And the Cardinals have the lead with Paul Goldschmidt's solo home run back in the first inning.
Going back to your evaluation of the bullpen and all the right-handers down there, I mean, that was it. You've got yourself a strong bullpen. Webb did everything he could to make this club, but as did Brebbia, and he ends up getting the nod.
Scoreless inning. Home half of the 5th rolls in when we come back. Mike Schilt for Cardinal fans. It's 1-0, but before the game, he said he'd have more news on Jed Jerko, who was nursing a sore calf after the game. So we'll find out more about that. But I don't know, Brad. It seemed like for us that it would take more time for him reading between the lines for him to be ready for opening day. But we'll find out officially after the game. If that would be the case, it looks like the bullpen as Colton Wong digs in. It would be Hicks, Miller, Leone, Brebbia, Myers, Reyes, and Gant. So 7-man bullpen, which then leaves the door open for a 5-man bench, which would include Robinson, Munoz, Wieters, Jose Martinez, and Tyler O'Neill.
It's what it looks like at this point. And like you said, we'll hear more news about Jed Jerko, what exactly is going on with that calf. But Mike Schilt did just kind of alluded to the fact that there wasn't necessarily an urgency to have him there by opening day. It's having him right whenever he is, ready to rock and roll. We know Jed Jerko over the years, we've seen him wear many different hats, fill different roles. Got to make sure he's
runs
right.
A couple of years ago.
Yes, man. You got to make sure he's right.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you got Webb, who is throwing moments ago, and you still, we haven't talked about him much, as Wong hits it down the right field line, foul, but waiting in the wings at some point, and it'll be curious how the Cardinals bring him back. But Carlos Martinez, now, is he coming back as a reliever? Is he a starter? But he's still there. I mean, you talk about a weapon. Man.
Yeah, well, and you think about bringing him back as a starter, that's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to build back up and get to that point. I do think that a lot of times, and I mean, this is hopefully going to be no more setbacks for Carlos. It'll be good to go. But sometimes how the season is going will dictate exactly how they want to bring you back. But just thinking about him, if he were a part of that bullpen, we saw him take over that closer role last year when Bud Norris had his issues, and he was good. He was really good. So if you had a 7, 8, 9, something, however you want to deploy Andrew Miller, Jordan Hicks, and a Carlos Martinez, man, that's a lot to work with.
Well, right. And, I was just looking at MLB.com last night. I thought Adam Wainwright had some powerful words for Alex Reyes.
Yes.
My goodness gracious. I mean, I saw the word phenom. I found myself diving into that article, which I thought was, and listen, I think anything coming from Adam Wainwright at this point of his career is worth its weight in gold, if you know what I mean. It speaks to the depth that this organization clearly has.
No, for sure. And Reyes, that was one where that was the biggest talking point. One of them coming into spring is exactly how do you use him. Now, first of all, it's all about his health. How is he feeling? How is he progressing? How is he bouncing back? And I know that the organization thinks that he can be an ace. He can be a frontline starter for them. But the arm is so valuable right now to have him part of the bullpen. It just made the most sense. And I was reading that same thing to see phenom. We've been hearing about that a long time. And Reyes is tired of being on the top prospect list. He wants to just be there, be in the big leagues, and be a guy. But it's going to be fun to see him in that pen as well.
Bader into shallow right, and the catch is made for the second out. Reminder that spring training baseball is always live with MLB at Bat. Follow the action through game day. Watch video highlights, track stats, standings, breaking news, and more. Download MLB at Bat now. There's Jordan Hicks there on the right. He has hit 103 miles per hour down here on the gun.
Just taking a little off.
Took a little off just to make sure, just to.
It's not fair.
Take a little off.
About the only thing I've hit 103 is a fever.
Exactly. Here's Matt Wieters, who beat out Francisco Pena for the backup spot for the Cardinals. He'll break camp with the club. 44 days shy of 10 years of service in the big leagues. So 4-time All-Star is a part of the Cardinals and a switch hitter. 4-time All-Star. Baltimore, Washington Nationals, and Francisco Pena, unfortunately for him, got hurt after initially getting off to a very good start in camp. Cardinals signed Wieters, had an out at the end of camp along with Pena, but Pena got hurt. Wieters did not, and Wieters breaks north with the club. 3-1 pitch. Couple of hops into the shift, and a 1-2-3. Gallen outside of the home run allowed to Goldschmidt is pitched very well here today. For Cardinal fans out there, a reminder that our Cardinals Hall of Fame voting is live right now at Cardinals.com. Some of the all-time greats are available for you to vote upon, and all you have to do is go to Cardinals.com/HOF. And there are 6 players, former players, to vote on right now. All you have to do is go to Cardinals.com/HOF. Cardinals and Marlins, it's our final spring telecast of the year. Todd Hollandsworth of Fox Sports Florida. Brad Thompson, Dan McLaughlin of Fox Sports Midwest. Guys, these are fun. Our split telecast. We get the chance to see each other a bunch down here in Jupiter and work a little bit together here on these split feeds. It's 1-0 Tyler Webb into the ball game, and those were the season numbers for Tyler. And with St. Louis, the ERA was above 4, but with St. Louis, he had 1 bad game, and really that was it. And outside of that was very good. Herrera sends Bader back a few steps. That's O'Neill, not Bader, but O'Neill. Tyler O'Neill with the catch as he shifts now to center field. Bader out, and 1 pitch and 1 away.
Well, when we heard the news a couple of days ago that Chasen Shreve had been DFA'd, you kind of looked at the bullpen and said, all right, well, maybe that is Webb that's going to end up being that second lefty. And as you mentioned, he was very good for the club last year. Got a feeling that he'll be a part of it again this year at some point. But Brebbia ends up taking that last spot. Brebbia is a guy. Was it 5 times that he went back and forth last year? Could have even been more than that. I mean, it was a crazy back and forth year, and every single time he was always prepared, always ready to go. With another good spring, it would have been tough to tell him he wasn't heading north.
Munoz to his left in the pick at first. Riddle retired. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but with the new rules coming into play this year and next, and the injured list plays a part of this, where teams may not manipulate the roster like they once did.
Right.
You know, from going from 15 to 10 days now to 10 back to 15, where, you know, the phantom injuries coming into play. Oh, yeah, guys got this. Well, send them down 10 days. Boom, another guy comes up. I just don't think teams will do that. It's a half a month.
Oh, well, and I think for most of us, that have watched this closely since, the idea, since it was brought in to shorten the IL, the first thing everybody talked about were starts. Because, I mean, you look at how these things are, measured. 10 days, 2 starts.
Right.
15 days, 3 starts. That's a totally different dynamic, as we all know, especially when you're talking about some of the game's elite pitchers missing an additional start. So I completely agree.
Base hit into right by Martin Prado. And Brian Anderson will be the batter.
Now, Martin Prado, line to line. When he's on his game, he does an awful lot of this. He'll take a breaking ball and line it, shoot it that other way. Had a good at bat his second time up, hit the ball hard, too. A good day for Prado. One last tune-up before opening day. As Brian Anderson steps into the box, I can't help but, I watch him, and I know it's a little bit early, and I don't want to get crazy, but I do know, in talking to Danny about Paul Goldschmidt and his tireless work ethic, Brian Anderson's got it as well. I mean, this kid was doing it last year. He was dropping weight in September, and we were all telling him, like, young man, you are working so hard, but you're dropping weight, and you got to maintain that strength. Like, he's had his first full off season, and he knows what 6 months of big league baseball is going to be about this year. I am so excited to see how and if he can take it to that next level.
It's kind of a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, he's anticipating it. Well, I mean,
Kisner, his throw, and Yadiel Rivera, the pinch runner, stole the base.
We talk about players like a Paul Goldschmidt, showing up early and working tirelessly. I used to say this about Juan Pierre all the time. He was the first guy there. He'd beat every coach. He'd beat the grounds crew people to the field. And the point was, he had the career that matched up, that lined up with it, the production. Other players, young players, a lot of times come in and want to work that hard, but they're not getting it done on the field. So, people, what is the first thing they say? You're working too hard. You're doing way too much. Brian Anderson last year, 4th in rookie voting, had a fantastic season, worked tirelessly. Cage work, off the field, position switch, had to learn right field, went back to third base. I mean, he had so much that was expected and wanted for himself that again, I'm really looking forward to this year because I think he's going to get how to be more productive on his off-the-field work.
Takes a while, doesn't it, to figure out exactly what you need. And as you know, you had a long career. I think it changes as you go on of exactly what you as an individual needs. There's no blanket thing where it's like, okay, well, we all do this, and this is how you prepare. When you talk about next level for him, what do you think that looks like? Is there something particular? Well, we were hitting on Harrison Bader, like the slider down the way. That's next level for him. What about Anderson?
Broken bat, slowly hit to Munoz at short. And he's retired. We'll talk.
Playing with expectations. That's really it.
Talk more about that when we come back. Good work by. We're in the bottom of the 6th, and it's 1-0 Cardinals. A Paul Goldschmidt solo home run in the first inning. Todd Hollinsworth, Brad Thompson, Dan McLaughlin. A split telecast today on Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Midwest. And Tyler Kinley. Tell us about this young right-hander.
Yeah, Tyler Kinley, he has got an arm that ball clubs drool over. This young man throws hard, but you saw the splits on him. You saw 13 strikeouts in 11 innings. Hey, that plays at the major league level. That's a young man who's bringing it. The 8 walks does not. That's getting yourself in trouble. 1 inning of work. You're setting yourself up for potential damage. You saw the bloated ERA. He's got to keep that in check. That's really what it comes down to. Challenge hitters a little bit more with a pretty good arm. You should probably get some better results.
Drew Robinson all over the place this spring. He pulls that foul. Been at third base, second, short, center field, left, right.
Is that good?
Second.
How about that double play he started yesterday?
Terrific.
Diving up the middle, had a range quite a ways to get it.
Well, that's how you make the ball club. Versatility and the fact that he's a left-handed bat. I mean, for the Cardinals, very right-handed heavy in their lineup and their bench. Matt Wieters, switch hitter, but primarily a right-handed hitting club. And a swing and a miss. And Kinley retires the first hitter he sees here in the bottom of the 6th. This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Cardinals and Marlins. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the content descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of either club. Evan Mendoza with a fly ball into right. And the catch is made for out number 2. Jose Martinez. Cardinals busy in terms of the business side of the sport. The first extension down here, Jose Martinez, 2-year deal. Then it was Miles Michaelis. And then this past week, Paul Goldschmidt. So 3 players getting extensions down here. I said from the get-go back in November, the one that was just made so much sense was Miles Michaelis. I mean, you can just see it. It was kind of a John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations. It was on a tee. I mean, it was one that was on a tee for him. Just made sense. I did not see this one, Jose Martinez. And Goldschmidt, we were all told, and I think most people around the game felt that they would wait until he experienced St. Louis opening day, and then at that point, dive into it.
That would sell it.
Yeah,
you
get after
the table.
It, fan base, all that stuff. But they did 3 of them, and Martinez lines it into left, sinking but caught. So they were busy, and they're ready to roll for 2019. Quick inning. Spring training baseball on Fox Sports is brought to you by Budweiser. Wherever legendary MLB moments happen, Budweiser will be there. And by Ford, the official car and truck of the Cardinals. Split feed today. Fox Sports Florida and Fox Sports Midwest. Garrett Cooper, the batter, against Tyler Webb in his second inning of work. Paul Savarino, the play-by-play voice of the Marlins, will be with you on opening day for the Marlins. Todd Hollinsworth for Fox Sports Florida. Nice play. Mendoza gets up and steps on the bag. And Paul does a great job. Great job on the Marlins. So Paul Severino will be with the fans for the Miami Marlins with you, Todd, and I know you're looking forward to being back with Paul, and that should be a fun year.
We have a lot of fun on our broadcast. Good swing here by Cooper. Tell you what, he's had a real impressive spring training, and he dealt with a lot of injuries last year after getting hit by a pitch on the second game of the season. Boy, oh boy, as he battled back, he worked hard this winter, and all signs point to, again, him heading south. But you're right, Paul Severino does a fantastic job. Certainly just kind of came right in. Last year being the first year on the job for him, just flew right in and got it done. Just like I said, had a lot of fun on our broadcast, and again, a challenge to learn, a team that has transitioned an awful lot. We have a lot of new guys that kind of come up halfway through that season, and he's done a fantastic job, and really looking forward to Thursday. We got the Rockies. We're kind of busting out of the division here. Everybody else kind of seems like more of a little common denominator. It's the second year in a row we've kind of done this. Last year being the Cubs. We have a 4-game series with the Rockies starting on Thursday.
Jorge Alfaro at the plate, and well, let's just face it, wasn't an easy year either. The Marlins, not a lot of wins, so as a broadcaster from that perspective, you gotta, you gotta
have some fun.
You gotta have a little fun when the team's not doing well.
That's absolutely the truth. And listen, the Marlins are working hard to put together the best product on the field. They are getting there, and I think we, along with everybody else in Miami, expect this team to really play better baseball this season.
So for your fans that are watching, this is a guy to build around Alfaro and some of the other young players, exciting players that you have coming back. But for those watching, what are the other camp battles here on this final day of spring in Jupiter?
Well, much of the roster is set, as we know. The 40-man roster, I think, currently sits at 38. I mean, again, there's just much like the rotation conversation. I mean, if you look around the field, who's going. That Martin Prado's going to be the super utility. The shortstop's probably going to be shared by Rojas and Riddle. Who plays on what day, you'll find out. But Cooper's making this team. O'Brien was sent down a couple of days ago. Those are things that are pretty obvious.
That had to be a tough one, O'Brien being a native of South Florida.
Absolutely. But, I mean, as I was speaking to a little bit earlier in the broadcast, it was that direct message that, again, brought it up on our last telecast, which I find it encouraging to hear, because I grew up in a generation where strikeouts weren't good.
Yeah.
Strikeouts weren't okay, and action was... that's kind of what you worked towards. And both of these managers, both Don Mattingly and Mike Schilt, both have said this in spring training in that we need a little bit more contact. We're not going to deal with the strikeouts. And if there's too many strikeouts, you're essentially not going to be playing. And I think in that situation, to your point, it spoke to that. O'Brien had really heated up. He started out 0 for 11, but the one thing that kind of always is there with him is the number of strikeouts, and Don Mattingly has talked about that, just needing more consistent contact. I completely expect to see him at some point in Miami. He will definitely be impacting the roster. I really do believe it, because he's got as much power in the organization as anybody.
Lewis Brinson with 2 outs after the strikeout of Alfaro. And Brad, from the Cardinal perspective, it looks like the 25-man roster is set. We'll get more clarity from Mike Schilt after the game on Jed Jerko's situation, but Carpenter was in the starting lineup today, took 1 at bat, and then by design went on the backfields, and he'll stay down here in Florida, get some more at bats, and then join the club in Milwaukee. Cardinals will have a workout day on Wednesday. It'll be an off day for the club Tuesday. They'll play in an exhibition against Memphis tomorrow night. Nets pulled, diving stop, and the long throw safe as Brinson, with his speed, gets down the line.
Well, that's a pretty good show right there of what Brinson can do. A ball on the infield. Nice play by Robinson, coming up with the baseball, keeping it on the infield. Can beat out a strong throw across the diamond. It was a pretty good look. This ball hit hard inside that third base bag. High on the throw, but I think Brinson beats it anyway.
Were you surprised, Brad? No lefty going into Milwaukee?
Yeah, a little bit. Andrew Miller being the lone lefty out there. Brebbia ends up getting the last spot. But Mike Schilt did talk to us this morning about that, about the fact that he has a lot of confidence in his bullpen as a whole, that they can get both guys out. They can get lefties out, righties out. He mentioned the electric arm that Reyes has. Hicks is tough on anybody. I don't care what your matchup looks like. 105 with sink on it. It's going to be a little bit difficult, lefty or righty. Dominic Leone, who has had very good splits throughout his career against lefties with that hard cutter and the slider that he throws in there. There's a confidence that they have enough to be able to neutralize the lefties. And who knows? Things can change. Things can change throughout the year. And there are plenty of lefties throughout the organization. We got a chance to see a lot of them in spring training, and a very good one on the mound right now in Ty Webb. But they feel very confident right now, and I would too.
I'll tell you what, Andrew Miller, for our fans in St. Louis that haven't had the chance to see him, is absolutely nasty. I mean, he is nasty. And I was talking with him. He was working out today, and I was in the weight room, and he was just kind of doing some stretching and whatnot. And he said, I just love it right now in St. Louis. He said, I've heard so many great things about the organization, but it just feels like home. He said, this has just been the right place. You know, you play with the Yankees in Boston, you play with these historic franchises. He said, this just feels right. And he said, you got a good team. And you look at the Cardinals pitching right now, and again, it's on paper, and everybody's got excitement about, every team does. Marlins, Cardinals, it doesn't matter who you are, but the way that the pitching is set up for the Cardinals and the signing of Goldschmidt, the excitement around this team, I think Cardinal fans are going to be awfully excited about what they see.
It's fun to be able to go into the season and believing that you have an opportunity to win a championship, and that's where the Cardinals are at. And when they face the Brewers on opening day, the Brewers are right there too. I was going to ask you that point with the Andrew Miller story. Was it to highlight how excited he is about being here and the future here as a Cardinal, or was it just to let everybody know you were in the gym? We get it. You work out.
Well, I wasn't. No, there was no workout going on. Not at all. Not at all.
You work out.
Oh, I try.
Oh, I know you do, buddy.
I try. It's time to stretch, thank goodness. Look at you two, physical specimens. 1-0 Cardinals. We're in the bottom of the 7th. Todd Hollandsworth of Fox Sports Florida. Brad Thompson, Dan McLaughlin of Fox Sports Midwest. Mike Kickham is into the ball game. What do you know about this lefty, Todd?
Well, this young man's got a good arm. He had a good year last year in the minor leagues. Impressive spring training so far.
And that's fouled back by Andrew Kisner. Cardinals made the deal to get Goldschmidt. They included one of their top catching prospects, and Kisner was advancing quickly, so he'll start at Memphis. And we've seen, Brad, that he can handle the bat. Now it's just progression behind the plate and growing defensively.
Yeah, but it is nice to be able to have that that offensive backing as a catcher. And we saw him the other day in St. Lucie. He came in about the 7th inning. His first at bat, all he did is hit one 400 and something feet, just about a foot away from getting out of the ballpark. And he's done that at every level. He's been able to swing it. He's been able to hit. But you're right. It's about reps. It's about getting better and better behind the plate. And he's going to have an opportunity with, by the way, a very talented staff in Memphis to just keep growing and get better. For a guy like him, backing up Yadier Molina, I mean, what's the point? You're not going to get reps like that. And that was kind of the case with Carson Kelly. Just got to go out there and play.
Luke Weaver, Carson Kelly, the primary players going the other way to Arizona. Carson Kelly's had a nice camp. Last check with the Diamondbacks. And the 1-2 inside.
Excited for Carson Kelly, honestly, to get the opportunity to go out there. It just wasn't going to happen here. I know we had talked about him for years about being the heir apparent. Well, Father Time has slowed down quite a bit on Yadier Molina. He's getting better and better. He looks fantastic behind the plate, and that opportunity wasn't going to be there. He'll finally get one now with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Handled easily at first, and there's one away. The only run in this game, a Paul Goldschmidt solo home run.
All rights to this broadcast are reserved, and any rebroadcast, recording, retransmission Telecommunication to the public or unauthorized use of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Miami Marlins is prohibited.
Do you have to read that on your telecast?
I kind of let Paul do that one sometimes.
Yeah.
But, we go back and forth.
Okay. It's well done. Really well done.
We like to compete over the reads. We like
Is that
to.
right?
Yeah. We have competition.
Okay.
And we have our producers and directors. They vote on who did it best, and then they get to do it the next day.
Brad struggles in that aspect.
Yeah, Dan knows I'm not a strong reader.
Munoz lines out to center field, and there's 2 outs.
I told you we got to have to have some fun on our broadcast every now and again.
Yeah. So 2 away, and Dylan Carlson, the switch-hitting outfielder for St. Louis.
Well, this is the side that you wanted to see more from him. We were talking about him yesterday. From the left side, that swing looks really good. He's very comfortable. Once again, very young. Still a lot of room to grow. But now as a right-handed hitter, how does he develop?
Love his swing from the other side of the plate.
Pretty.
It is. Cardinals have a right-hander throwing in their pen. 1 ball and 1 strike. Dylan from California. His dad was his high school coach. An outstanding player, top pick. He's only 20 and he's had a good camp, major league camp.
Well, so is Mike Kickham. He's been able to command both sides of the plate all spring, even though he kind of crossfires just a little bit. That front side still has the ability to get the ball in on the righty.
Let's get that late break too.
Right. It's tough to pick up.
That crossfire is so deceptive, too, and it's difficult to get your arm in the same position over and over again to be able to execute, especially to the glove side. But if you can do that, man, you're going to have a lot of success.
I agree.
It's 3 hits aside. And the one big one, a Paul Goldschmidt solo home run. The difference through 7. 1-0. 1-0 our score. Back in the first inning, Paul Goldschmidt and our Budweiser player of the game and play of the game. This solo home run hit by Paul Goldschmidt, his 3rd of the spring, and he got hot here at the end.
Hey, heating up at the right time, and I know Cardinal fans are so excited to see him at the home opener in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be honest before we know it. But man, he's special. He's just one of those guys, and I know last year was kind of a weird year for him, a lot like Matt Carpenter. He had that really slow start, but then you look at the overall numbers, say, my goodness, how talented you must be to be able to get yourself in a hole and then get out of it.
That's Jack Murphy with a base hit into right off of Jesus Cruz. And the leadoff man is aboard for the Miami Marlins.
And there were a couple of guys last year that, to your point, I mean, just the slow starts that they both had seemed like there's no way that they were going to recover from them. Not only did they recover from them, like you go look at the run that they went on and think, if they could have just sustained the run for the entire season, it would have been one for the ages for both of them. That's how that Goldschmidt had I believe his OPS was well under 700 for about the first 2 months of the season, and he ended up at 922. I mean, wow. And we saw him early, the Marlins did. And boy, oh boy, it wasn't pretty.
To him.
Yeah, right. I think we talked about this. You know, he was the guy that you were kind of trying to get at in the lineup as opposed to get around.
Cardinals did that early in the season. That pitch taken high, and it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Rosell Herrera at the plate, tying run at first base. We're in the 8th inning. Now a right-hander pops up for St. Louis in the bullpen, and Goldschmidt wind up being in the top 10 in the MVP vote.
Carpenter, it felt like he hit a home run for about every day for a month?
Yeah, all August, basically.
Right? I mean, that's what it felt like.
Only play to go to first, and the runner advances, and Tommy Edman is your new second baseman. Tommy Edman, and we talk about it on our Cardinal telecast. I mean, he has had an outstanding camp. one of the top 5 camps of anybody in the Cardinal uniform.
He was great, and we were talking about the versatility of a guy like Drew Robinson. Well, Tommy Edman's got a lot of that too. He plays the middle infield very well. You can put him over at third base. He can be great. Hits well from both sides. I was talking to Tommy a little bit this morning just about his camp, and he's just excited. He's been excited to be able to be here the entire time. He was very pumped up, as the ball will find you.
John Bertie, and he almost beat it out, but Edman with a strong throw, and almost looked as if he had to say or look at the ball to make sure it didn't hit the bag.
Absolutely. That's what probably cost him a step or two, in that he would have probably gotten to the ball a little bit quicker. Hustling down the line. You'll watch as this ball makes its way back through the middle. That second hop right there, had to wait for it to cross over second base bag, so it maybe cost him just a bit of time, but enough to get the out.
That's hit foul down the right field line. Yadiel Rivera came in to pinch run for Martin Prado. Stayed in the ball game.
Just going back to my thought on Tommy Edman, he was excited about being here, getting this opportunity, doing all this, but he was very excited about getting a chance to go on the big league charter, because he's going with the team. He's going with them to Memphis. I let him in on a little secret that the plane will take off with your tray table down and your seat reclined. He seemed very excited about this.
And in the food?
But the food is great. They just keep bringing it out.
Just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, now I know that nutrition has played a bigger role here recently in Major League Baseball, but I do recall hot chocolate chip cookies coming out quite a bit.
Nice.
Really like those.
Okay.
It's going to be a great flight for Tommy Edman. Yeah, all kinds of great stuff on those flights, you know. Loved it.
Well, you'll always fly better in the big leagues.
It's true. That is true. When I first got to AAA, I always thought, like, oh, man, they fly places. That's going to be fantastic. Well, you got the 6 a.m. out of wherever you're at. The bus is going to be at 4 o'clock. I mean, there is not too much. There's not much glamour in your AAA travel.
Well, for fans, so they understand, AAA teams, minor league teams that do fly, they fly commercially. So they're getting on planes that you and I we get on now.
Yep.
Now, when you're flying with the big league team, you're flying a charter flight, so it's completely different. That plane's, well, it's just waiting for you at the airport, and they're saying, please come on, eat our food.
Right.
Walk up the stairs. You don't have to go through security. No big deal. Just get on.
Brad last night at dinner was telling me you cleared your first check in the minor leagues. You were clearing after taxes $260.
It was about 250 something.
Yeah.
My first check that I had.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a little bit different, I guess, when you get to the big leagues. I recall getting my first check there. You see this one hot right up the box.
Rivera has tied it up for the Marlins, and it's 1-1. A 2-out base hit into center field.
I got my first check in the big leagues, and it's the most money that I had ever made in my life. And the next 2 or 3 checks ended up just being in my carry-on bag. I didn't have direct deposit or anything. They finally came to me and said, hey, you going to do something with these? I said, yeah, I didn't need any more. I'll get there.
Sounds like Ricky Henderson. You've heard the Ricky Henderson stories, right?
Yeah, except for I didn't have $1 million check.
I'll tell you about the pitching change when we come back. Top 8th, Chris Beck. Last season, White Sox. And again, another one of those guys that's got big league time and gives the Cardinals some depth at the minor league level, and potentially called upon at some point this year.
Had a really nice camp.
Yeah, he did.
I think that's important to have. The Cardinals have a lot of young arms that they've drafted, that they've developed throughout the organization. They've climbed and they've got better and better. And we've seen a lot of them graduate to the big leagues. But it's also important to have guys with, the big league service time. Have your veteran guys down there in AAA also to be ready. Not only can you, call upon them when the time is right, but I think those guys help out your other guys. It's about having that balance. Todd, that's something when I look at the Marlins, there seems to be a good balance of the young talent, but a lot of good veterans sprinkled in as well.
Well, and it was important for the Marlins to bring in some key names, and they really have, whether it's Curtis Granderson or Martin Prado, who was here. I mean, you're in a position where, you've got a few veteran players who have had very nice careers. Neil Walker, who are here, who want to be here, who want to help this next generation of Marlins. They know that this may not be, they may not be here long enough to see this all the way to the very end. But the point is, that you realize where you're at in your career and the opportunity that you're being given, and what your role is in that clubhouse as much as it is in producing on the field. I think Curtis Granderson maybe gets it as much as anybody. I look at Neil maybe a little differently. He's a little bit younger than Curtis, but Curtis is he's been doing this for a very, very long time. And the point to that is he's had a career. If somebody said today Curtis Granderson's done, he was retiring, we'd all stand up and applaud and say, wow, that was a great run by
16-year Major League career.
Right. I mean, he's been doing it at an incredibly high level for a very long time, and so now he's in a role, and it caught my attention talking to Don Mattingly earlier this week in regards to Curtis Granderson. So I'd asked him, I said, Donnie, Curtis going to be kind of doing what he did last year, 2 teams, Milwaukee, pinch hitting a little bit, and playing against some of the righties.
Little chopper that is fair. Long throw, and Dixon Machado is retired.
Just to finish that thought, they're expecting more from him. They're hoping for about 400 at-bats from Granderson.
Interesting. Beautiful day here in Florida as we wrap up. Reminder for the Cardinal fans, Cardinals opening weekend is Saturday, April 6th. And San Diego, Manny Machado, they'll be in town, and fans 16 and older will be surprised at the gates with a mystery Hall of Fame parade bobblehead, and that's courtesy of Ford. You might get Ozzie Smith, Whitey Herzog, or maybe even Bruce Sutter. Get your tickets, cardinals.com/promotions. We're in the bottom of the 8th, and it's 1-1. Roger Dean Stadium complex shared by both the Marlins and the Cardinals. Todd Hollandsworth, Brad Thompson, Dan McLaughlin with you. R.J. Alvarez, his numbers last year in the minor leagues. Todd?
Yeah, he's had a nice season. He's had a pretty good spring training as well. Nice season last year. As you see, the 3.68 ERA, 44 innings of work. What stands out? The home runs. He keeps the ball in the yard. A little different arm angle from the right side. Drops down just a little bit. So not an easy guy to pick up.
Tyler O'Neill has made the club. And for Cardinal fans on this shared telecast, right-hander John Brebbia appeared in 95 games with the Cardinals the past 2 seasons, but has never been on an opening day roster. Has made the Cardinals 2019 opening day roster. Mike Schilt announcing that this morning. Gained the final spot. It'll be a 7-man bullpen for the start of the season in Milwaukee. That'll be Thursday. And the telecast will be seen on Fox Sports Midwest at noon, hour-long pregame show. Brebbia, opponents hit just 226 against him last year. And O'Neill a swing and a miss, and that's how we start the home half of this 8th inning.
Yeah, got to be excited for a guy like Brebbia as you see this one here. Blown right by O'Neill. You mentioned that deception, that arm angle right there, Todd. That's pretty good.
He did a nice job starting him off with a slider away, which certainly gets your attention when you drop down righty on righty and able to get that fastball underneath his hands there. A few strikeouts here in spring training. Of course, he has tremendous power.
Here's Tommy Edman, shift on the right side, and a strike. Switch hitter Tommy Edman. Got a home run this spring from this side of the plate. He's driven in 9, batted .341. He was Stanford's number 3 hitter. Now you look at him, not a big guy, but yet the number 3 hitter at Stanford.
He's got power too. I mean,
yeah.
it's not, he's not just gap to gap. I mean, I think that's where a lot of his power is. But if you get something on the inner half, and we've seen it already this spring, I mean, you can put one off the building over there. He's just got a nice compact swing, and he's comfortable. He's got a great idea of what he's doing up there.
Isn't that the joy of our sport? I mean, you can be a dynamic offensive presence, and it doesn't really round itself into, well, you got to be 7 feet tall, or the largest wingspan, or the fastest guy on the floor. I mean, I love our game, man. When you watch Mookie Betts, I mean, one of the smallest guys on the field, Jose Altuve, and then Giancarlo Stanton's of the world. I mean, our sport is in all shapes and sizes, and excellence comes in that same way.
There's Francisco Pena, and Edmund has certainly opened up eyes.
Right.
And they've talked about his power. And, you look at the size, you wouldn't know it if you don't see him every day. And that's, scouts have talked about uptick in his power in this spring. Here's Pena. And we mentioned that Wieters has made the camp, out of camp, made the Cardinals team, and now Pena, really interesting, probably 24, 48 hours for him coming up if a team would want him as a backup, as all the camps now around Major League Baseball come to a close and final roster decisions. Would they want him? The Cardinals would not stand in his way.
It's a big decision. You know, when you're looking at that, and it's hard because, as you mentioned, everybody's trying to do what the Cardinals are doing, what the Marlins are doing right now is rounding out their roster. So it's a difficult time to jump on and find a job. But Pena did a very good job for them.
Shoots it out to deep right, but the catch is made near the edge of the track. Sends us to the ninth. Opening day around Major League Baseball, and that'll be Thursday. Miles Michaelis, Jhoulys Chacín will come your way on Fox Sports Midwest at noon. Colorado at Miami, 4:10 Eastern. Paul Severino and Todd Hollandsworth will have it for you on Fox Sports Florida. Rockies and Marlins, Fox Sports Florida. And back to work here in the top of the ninth in the final inning. In the final spring game for both these teams. Isaac Galloway. And they've got a runner at second base. Interesting here. So here's one of the proposed rules that has been bantied about in Major League Baseball and minor leagues, independent baseball. Now we're going to see it come to fruition. We haven't seen it in play yet, but now we're going to try it here. Interesting.
I'm
First time
interested
I've
in
seen
practice, I guess. Yeah, why not?
First time I've seen it. So the corners are in, and the outfield has taken a few steps in. I haven't seen it yet. Have you guys seen this in any of your games, Todd?
No, we have not.
I feel like I started a lot of innings that ended up this way. Like, how did that guy get on second? Already, here we go.
Haven't even thrown a pitch.
Yeah, what happened? Not surprised to see this, by the way. A couple of pickoff attempts there. The Cardinals, before the game today on the field, they were working on this. They were working on their pickoffs at second base for a while. And it's nice to actually do it where you have somebody wearing a different jersey and being able to work on it against the opposition, because something like that, something as simple as a pickoff, the right timing can be the difference between a ball game, especially a tight one.
Well, the idea was that you would start the 10th inning like this.
Right. Yep.
I don't know if fans like it or not. I guess some may not. But here we're going to try it in the 9th inning of a 1-1 game.
Well, anybody who follows youth baseball sees this an awful lot. This happens. It's a call it maybe a modified variation of the California rules, I believe, because I think you start with an out with a runner on second base, and then you play it from there and see where it ends. You know, where it ends up. But it helps you get to a conclusion of a ball game, obviously a little quicker. I had the ability to speak to an 18-inning game that happened last year. It was our second game in.
Oh, wow.
Great way to start the season.
Yeah, by the way, against the Cubs. Here we go. 18 innings. Here you go. You want to talk about plowing through your bullpen? That's
Absolutely.
how it happens.
With guys really not being stretched out.
Right.
Coming out of camp. Shortened inning breaks this season. Mound visits down to 5. Trade waivers eliminated. Both the baseball and the PA looking at potential other changes in the All-Star game, the voting payment structure for the home run derby as well. All that will be implemented this year. Here's the 0-1 pitch now to Isaac Galloway, trying to get the bunt down, and he does. Gloved by Robinson, and the sacrifice is good. And there's one away with the go-ahead run down at third. Well, and I think one of the reasons that you do this is, number one, to get a conclusion and end the ball game, but two, to your point, is that you don't have to blow out bullpens in a long season, and you keep guys somewhat fresh.
Well, anybody who's gone through it or had any type of career, coaching, lived through any one of those games, the fallout is usually about a week long. I mean, it almost is always that way, because you're calling up, you're shaking up not only your rotation, but potentially your bullpen. You've got some guys that may come up and come down, guys that may need 3 days of rest. If you've got 2 guys who have gone 3+ innings in your bullpen, they're no good for 3 more days. So yeah, those games can mess you up.
It's the lingering effect of that game.
Right.
Cardinals will bring the infield in. Joe Dunand. Little check swing. Beck looks back the runner, gets the out. So there's 2 away.
Well, big pitch by Beck, able to get in under Joe's hands right there. A little half swing, comebacker to the mound. We'll take another look. Here it is. Yeah, he wasn't too sure he wanted to go at it.
You're committed at that point.
Yeah, and that's what the pitcher's looking for right there in that situation. I mean, he'd love the punch out, but even soft contact on the infield gets the job done.
Now Guerrero. Numbers last season in the minor leagues with 19 home runs. The infield is back. 2 outs. And a fastball taken for ball 1.
Todd, you ever go no batting gloves?
Oh, I've tried it all. 12 years in the big leagues, man. You know, all the slumps that you go through. No batting gloves, high socks, no socks, high tops, low tops, turfs, plastics, you know, no T-shirt, T-shirt underneath, deodorant, no deodorant, you name it.
I don't know, so I'm going to ask you, but this guy's got the look of Vlad Guerrero.
Yeah, he does, absolutely.
Is there any relation?
I believe there is. I believe it's his nephew.
Okay. I mean, he's got the look and the swing.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, he does. Well, and that's the idea, you know, that whip that you like to get. So you'll watch hitters. I used to always think of Moises Alou. I was always so impressed. You see his hands, how he kind of scrunches them down to the end of that knob right there, trying to get that whip effect through the strike zone. Vladimir Guerrero, known for it as well.
I mean, he's got the swing, the look.
Well, even that little pulling on the shirt is Vladdy, all Vladdy as well.
Now, if he would have swung at that, then it's definitely Vladimir Guerrero.
Swung at it and lined it into right, then it's definitely Vladimir.
I remember the scouting report against Vladdy. I only got to face him one time. It said, throw it down the middle. Throw it down the middle. He might just pop it up. Anything else, you're in trouble.
It looked something like this.
That's right. Cross your fingers and hope.
Right. Good opportunity here for Guerrero.
His son's not a bad ball player, by the way.
He is not.
Wow.
I still think back to last spring training and that home run he hit in Montreal. I mean, my goodness gracious. Could that time, I mean, isn't it amazing how some just have a knack for the dramatic? I mean.
That was against the Cardinals.
Right, I know. I'm not bringing it up for that reason, merely because you did.
Out to left, and the Cardinals will have a chance to walk it off. Well, new right-hander in for the Miami Marlins, and Todd Hollinsworth, tell us about this young man.
Well, Tommy Evold had a great season last year, 107 ERA. He's had an even better spring training. Doesn't even have an ERA. He's been so good. 4 strikeouts, 3 innings of work. He's looking to keep things in check, and I guess I would assume playing for the tie. I know extra innings aren't coming. I dare wander past, you know, my point of knowledge here, which is, you know, past the 9th inning, but you know, we all watch spring training. Yeah, here we go. So we'll see how we I don't believe we're going past this either way.
No, sir.
Right?
No.
No matter what happens.
And that's Justin Turner, spelled T-O-E-R-N-E-R, but pronounced Turner. And he was a 28th round selection in the 2018 draft by the Cardinals. Made it up to Peoria A ball last year. Drew Robinson, the batter for St. Louis. So the winning run at second base for the Cardinals, starting with a base runner at second. Robinson squaring to bunt, and remember, Robinson was, for Cardinal fans, hit on the hand about a little over a week ago. It was a similar type of situation like this, hitting from this side of the plate, kind of squared and took a pitch off the hand. You know, that's fresh in his mind more than likely. And bunts it in the air, but foul, and a souvenir and an error. But he recoups the baseball and recovers on that bad play behind home plate, but
It's a tough error.
Well, I had to give it to him. I mean, we're at the end of camp, and you got to come up with these.
Yeah, that ball. I mean, that.
You got to come up with it.
Yeah, there might be a little pass interference there, but regardless, you're right. I mean, the ball came off the bat soft. He's got to make that catch.
Got to make it. It's a tough league.
You're right about that.
Here's the 0-2. Now you got to pull it to the right side. You got to move that runner over. I'm harsh right now at the end of camp, aren't
I? Oh, it's attention to detail.
It's
whether
right.
it be getting down a bunt or a fan that's sitting directly behind catching a weak fly ball. Whatever it is.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. And Robinson hits it in the air. Cardinals did have a shift against them, battling the sun, but the catch is made, and Turner's back in safely. And those bases are not going to give. He went in sharply there to second base.
Turner started to wander because I think he was reading, how the ball was being caught, and there was, there's still some wind in this ballpark right now, so there was some deception there. He thought maybe the ball would fall in, and you see the awkward slide leg first back into second base.
Here's Mendoza. Jose Martinez on deck, so not advancing the runner. And one out at second base. Now a shift on the left side. Mendoza shoots it foul and out of play. No one throwing in the Cardinal bullpen, so get the feeling this should be it.
You don't want any free baseball? Last game down here?
We have not seen extra innings any of the games, at least from the Cardinal perspective. And I don't think they would do it on the final day. Here's the check on the runner at second. I didn't say I don't want it. I'd be more than happy to have it, Brad. I know you two would as well.
Let's do 18.
Oh, you've done that before. Maybe save that for the regular season for you guys.
Oh, we can get it out of the way now if you'd like. If you guys want to do it with me. I know Paul would appreciate me getting that favor knocked out of the way if we have one coming this year.
Get it done now,
right?
Get
it done now. Get it out of the way.
Dan, what's the longest game you've been a part of?
Against the Marlins, 2003, I believe.
Marlins Park. No, I'm sorry.
There's a base hit into right. Here comes Turner. And in the final game of spring, the Cardinals will walk it off. Turner scores on a base hit by Mendoza. And the final of 2-1. And that's how spring training 2019 comes to a close. No extra innings today, boys.